episode of the Frankenstein Coyote build. Today we are going to be focusing on installing the camshafts as well as timing the motor, and I'm pretty excited to get that all wrapped up because at that point the motor is more or less done, and then we can kind of start worrying about getting it in the car. So let me go ahead and show you guys what we've got all laid out on the table to work with. So this is the main stuff we're going to be focusing on. We have our comp cams, stage 3 blower cams. We got our phasers that go on the front of the cams. Here we have lash adjusters and finger followers, as well as secondary timing chains, and then the primary timing chain in the back there. Those are all soaking in oil so that they're nice and lubricated before we put them on the motor. It's fresh 5W30, which is going to be what we use for braking oil. Over here we do have some ARP bolts for the phaser to cams. Over here we have the JPC Racing billet timing guides. These all fit pretty good, but I did actually have a fitment issue on this stationary guide for the passenger side. For whatever reason, the guides were just a little bit too small. They weren't quite machined enough, so I had to take a drill bit and open those up a little bit, but they're good to go now. And then we have got brand new camshaft filters. And then we do also have the ARP camshaft phaser like assembly bolts. I'm going to swap those out on the phasers once those are on the car, but not like a super big deal. I'm just going to go ahead and replace them since I've already got it all out open and ready to go. Forgot to mention we do have the Boundary crank sprocket gear there. So let me go ahead and open up this camshaft, give you guys a quick little look at it. It's still in the bag, but you'll get a better idea of how it looks once it's on the car. So one thing, the finger followers, so these little guys, they have these little clips on the bottom. So that little clip right there, they just pop off, and the intent and purpose of them is so that you clip the lash adjuster in there, and it makes it easier to assemble the finger followers and lash adjusters into the head, because you can put the camshafts in and then like pop those in underneath kind of thing. But we're going to go ahead and pull the clips off like you can see here. I've already gone ahead and done most of them, but I'm pulling them off because I have seen where people have had issues where these clips have come off on them in the motor and just kind of floating around the heads and could potentially cause like the coyote tick. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this last one off, put that in the oil thing, but I just wanted to go ahead and point that out to you guys. And so hopefully it is not difficult in terms of keeping them seated when installing the camshafts. We'll find out soon. So comp cams are marked with numbers, and then the boxes kind of indicate which one they are. You want to be careful with them because you obviously don't want to damage them. But they have LI and then RI for left intake and right intake. It is marked on the cam there, as well as written here. This one's also marked for LE for left-hand exhaust. Exhaust is the furthest outside of the motor. Now before we can install the cams, we obviously have to pull off the cam caps here. I did go ahead and swap out all of the hardware for the ARP stuff already. So this is all ARP everything. I'm gonna go ahead and pull these cam caps off and we can install the cams. One thing to note with the cam caps, you want to be very particular and make sure you keep them in exact order because each of these has specific placement. They are numbered with an arrow facing the front of the motor, but I usually just like to keep them all lined up exactly where they came from so that I don't have to worry about it and think about it. And part of that reason, I believe, is because they're machined specifically with how they clamp down. So it's like a perfect circle kind of thing. So if you mix that up, it's not necessarily going to be perfect. You'd have to get it re-honed type thing. Cam caps are all off now. And as you can see, I kept them very much in line. Super organized, just makes everything a lot easier. So before we put the cams on, we're gonna go ahead and put all the lash adjusters and finger followers in place. You need 16 for each side. Just throw some assembly lube in all of the cam caps or cam bearing lobes, whatever the fuck they're called. intent here is to make sure that the bearing area is all nice and lubed, because you definitely don't want to have a dry rotation going when you first get this all started up. This is a little bit thicker and stickier, it seems like, probably because it helps it stay on the surface. Left-hand cam, I'm going to go ahead and assume is meant to be paired with the left-hand head. So with that being said, we can go ahead and drop this in. You want the indent right here to be facing a certain direction. You can just refer to the Ford service manual to get clarification. They have pictures and stuff. But we're going to point this basically down towards the oil pump. Sorry about that, camera cut off again, but I just finished putting the last two in. Now we can transition to doing the second cam here. Assembly lube on these bolts, and then I'm threading them in to get them started. And then I'll do the main mega cap. Camera shut off on me again, but as you can see, I've got the mega cap back on. Two things to note. I wanted to make sure that I let you guys know I put the keyway at the 9 o'clock position. That's the position you usually have it when reattaching the timing chains on the driver's side. And then here's the positioning for the camshafts. You've got the little D slot here, basically pointing down to the oil pump, and then this one pointing just about 12 o'clock, and that relates to the timing stuff. And from there, now that all that's in place, we're gonna go ahead and start the torquing procedure on the camshafts, and it goes the middle one and works its way out. So you go from the inside up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. And I believe there's a factory procedure for like 53 something or whatever, but ARP has different settings, and just says to do 90 inch-pounds based on that rotation. So that's it, that's what we're gonna do. So I was about ready to get all wrapped up and, you know, put the front timing chains on and everything like that, when I realized, like, I'm an idiot and the secondary timing chain tensioner is missing the lower guide. So I have to locate some of the lower guides and then the retainer clip. I don't know, I gotta figure that out, and we'll come back after that. All right, people, welcome back. It's been a couple days at this point. I did go ahead and secure the couple pieces I was missing. I needed 2 lash adjusters and then 2 of the secondary timing chain guides. So I had the tensioners, but it didn't come with the guides. And I did find someone that said you don't need the little retainer clips that hold the guides onto the backside of the tensioners. We're gonna see if that's the case. Hopefully the tension from the tensioner is what essentially holds that guide up against everything and keeps it all in place. So I'm taking a minute real quick and disassembling the phasers to make sure they're nice and clean on the inside. So after you remove the 6 bolts, there's this little clip here. Just need to spread it. You can pull it off that way. Set that off to the side until you're ready again. I believe it should just separate. There we go. So this is the inside of the phaser. And typically what you would do is you got these little metal blocks that you would drop in here, the limiters, so that it limits how much rotation this inside piece has, because this is kind of what essentially advances and retards your timing inside the motor. So this is kind of like what shifts around inside the motor, but I just wanted to open it up, make sure, you know, there's not like sludge and stuff like that, because they are used. So now that they look okay, I'll give them a quick wipe, and then we'll put it back together with our ARP hardware. So I've got the secondary timing chains. They've been soaking since the other day. All right, and just like your standard timing chain, it's no different. Being MMR, you've got a single green link and then a double green link. You just match these up to the timing marks on the phasers. Timing marks face away from each other, basically. You've got your intake phaser, which is the phaser with just one gear on the back, and then you've got your exhaust phaser, which is the outside, which is what the main timing chain drives, and that's the one with 2 gears. So you're going to put the single link to line up with the timing mark on the exhaust phaser, and then the double goes over the intake side. I did pick up this MMR wrench for the cams. It kind of helps when aligning the phasers and everything. So we'll be able to use this to kind of pivot one way or the other. So I was able to turn just now. I thought that maybe I'd be able to invert the tensioner here, and I was able to do so. However, the height difference is not quite right. So like once you get the chain on, it wouldn't actually be riding on the guide down here. So to do the inverter bracket thing, you do, I guess, have to run the MMR inversion bracket. So that being said, we're just gonna have to run it the regular way, and no big deal. So with the tensioner at 90 degrees, we'll go grab the phasers and start to slide them on. Tensioner, bam. All right, there we go. So now I just need to bolt these down, and once these are all torqued down, then I can install the primary timing chain, crank sprocket gear, and we'll shift to the passenger side. And then the outer phaser bolts with the ARP stuff is 180 inch-pound. On the driver's side are officially installed. Now we just have to put the primary tensioner into place. Alright, now we have our boundary crank sprocket here. This just slides on. You've got a little keyway that you line up. Once that's lined up, it should more or less slide on. Just a little over this thing. Have the primary timing chains here soaking in oil, and then the timing chains have one dark mark. As you can see, it's got that blue colored link, the rest are silver. And you just need to loop it around, find your timing marks on the crank gear, and this does need to go on the back side. Alright, and this is where once you've got the timing chain for the most part in, you can actually turn the crank a little bit to give yourself more leverage one way or the other. And just line it up on the links there, as well as on the crank gear. This is the timing mark on the crank sprocket. And then here you have your timing mark on the top of the exhaust cam. So just line up with those two, and once you've done that, then you're set on the driver's side timing. And we can reinstall our tensioner. So since these are brand new, I don't have to compress them, but if you guys are not familiar, you just use a vice grip to compress this down, and then you use a pin to lock the little lever thing, and once you've done that, then you're good to go. So it's just 2 bolts. Tighten these down. These are torqued to like 89 inch-pounds, so I'm just kind of hand snugging them down. I'll go back and torque everything once I'm done. Now that we double check our timing marks, colored link lined up with the black bar there, as well as up top here. One more time. Once we know it looks good, we can pull the pin and then bam. All right, now we will transition to installing the cams on the passenger side. Sorry about the breaks and time lapses that have kind of been happening here and there. I don't realize, like, you know, the camera shuts off because I'm kind of in the zone, and then you know, the battery overheats or whatever. So apologies. Same thing as the other side, 90 inch-pounds. Thing that I noticed on the other side, I did like a second rotation because as I torqued them all down, like the middle ones weren't as tight again. So second time around, it's a good thing on the cams. I gotta swap the phaser hardware out for the ARP stuff, and then we will start to install the phasers on this side. Alright, so we got our ARP hardware all swapped around on the cam phasers. I'm installing the filters on the ends of the cams real quick. Alright, and then we can grab our secondary chain, throw it on the phasers, and put the phasers on. To install this little chain guide, you literally just slide it on the bottom of this thing, and basically it just kind of clips in. And it does a little loose or whatever, but it's not the end of the world. It won't go anywhere. So we've got single link on the exhaust phaser, and then double link on the intake phaser, which is like the opposite of how many gears there are. Why? I don't know. See how easy that made that with that little wrench, being able to turn it as need be. When these are brand new, they like are locked in or whatever, but once you compress it, it pops right out. For whatever reason. I don't know how it works. Can't really redo it, but bam, now we have tension on the secondary chains. Let's grab our primaries after we install the guides real quick. Same thing as the other side, one colored link on each end. And those are supposed to go over the timing links on the phasers and the crank gear. When retiming an 11 to 14 car, you start at 9 o'clock and then you turn it to 12 o'clock. Fair bit over 12 o'clock, but that could be due to the phasing of the cams. Last thing I almost forgot to do, I'm going to go ahead and put the bolts in the front of the phasers into the cams. And now that all the bolts are in, I can torque down the cam to phaser bolts and then the phaser assembly bolts. Same torque as the other side. I think it's 33 foot-pound on the cams and then 180 inch-pound on the phaser assemblies. Moment of truth. Wait, what? It's already... Oh. Never mind. Well, that was anticlimactic. Let me show you guys like the finished timing and everything. So up top here we have our phasers. As we know, we kept the timing in check as we installed them, which you can see we have the two links there and then the dash is in there. I don't know if you can see it or not. It's visible. So we know that that's in time. Same thing on this side, single link right over the dash. So we know our secondary chains are in time. And then up top of the phaser here, colored link in line, as well as on the bottom of the keyway here, you have your colored link, which is a little hard to see because it's behind the other chain, but you can tell it's a little bluer or darker. And they're both in line with the crank gear marking. And come back up here, we have our passenger side phaser. Blue link is marked. Secondary chain, single link, and dash. Double link, right next to the dash. So there we have it, guys. That is the finished install of the camshafts as well as timing the motor. So now everything is ready to go. I'm gonna go ahead and spin it over a couple times, just kind of make sure everything feels okay. There's no restrictions. Everything kind of feels like normal. And once that's done, I'm just gonna go ahead and throw the timing cover in place. I'm not gonna worry about the silicone and stuff just because it is late at this point, so I'm gonna have to worry about that another day. But that is gonna be the end of the video for you guys. So hopefully you all have been enjoying the Frankenstein Coyote motor series so far. At this point, we're pretty much done with the motor assembly. There's a couple little things to button up, like the sensors, the timing cover, the valve covers, all that stuff. But that's pretty self-explanatory in terms of that. I mean, this was the meat and potatoes of everything in terms of the motor build. So from here, I'm gonna go ahead and I think we're gonna call the Coyote motor build series a wrap and transition to now obviously having to pull the motor and everything out of my car. So stay tuned for that, guys. I hope you're enjoying the series so far. Definitely hit the like button if you are. Feel free to subscribe to the channel if you're new here and you want to stay tuned for more awesome content like this. Otherwise, I think that's going to do it. So peace out. I'll catch you in the next one.